Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events that have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. After yes referendum, Catalan leaders declare that independence from Spain is just a few days away. Spanish government responds with warnings that it will not accept blackmail of any kind, asks Catalonia to return to the path of law. A 64-year-old gunman goes on a killing spree in Las Vegas and takes 59 lives. Police probe focuses on killer Stephen Paddock's motives. US investigators claim there is no Islamic State link in the attack. The United States expels 15 Cuban diplomats to match staff reduction at the US Embassy in Havana. Decision follows mystery attacks on American personnel in the island nation. Cuba protests against the decision. The 2017 Nobel Peace Prize awarded to a group campaigning for nuclear disarmament decision comes amid growing tensions between the US and North Korea. Nobel Committee honors the ICAN with the prize. Our top focus on World Panorama this week. Catalonia's leader, Carles Puigdemont, earlier this week declared that the region has won the right to break away from Spain. The Catalan government claimed that 90% of voters backed independence in the banned referendum, which was marred by clashes last Sunday. At least 92 people were confirmed injured out of a total of 844 who needed medical attention. Spain's central government has branded the vote a farce, even as the European Commission agreed that it was illegal and urged both sides to talk.
Catalan mayors and crowds of people gathered outside the regional government building in a show of support for their leader Carles Puigdemont and Sunday's independence referendum. This after members of Catalonia's regional government attended an emergency cabinet meeting on Monday. Puigdemont had declared on Sunday that voters had earned the right to independence and that he would present the results to the region's parliament, which then had the power to move a motion of independence. In Madrid, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy met with the leader of opposition, Pedro Sánchez, to plan his next steps.
Sabían que el referéndum era ilegal, improcedente e imposible.
The Catalan leaders knew the referendum was illegal, improper and impossible, but decided to go ahead and prompted a real attack on the rule of law and the democratic model without caring. The state security forces and bodies, the national police and civil guards have fulfilled their obligation and their judicial mandate.
Y a la Guardia Civil han cumplido con su obligación.
The referendum has no legal status. It was blocked by the Madrid government and Constitutional Court for being at odds with the 1978 Constitution, which states that Spain is indivisible. The European Union also weighed in on the referendum, urging both sides to go back to the dialogue table.
We call on all relevant players to now move very swiftly from confrontation to dialogue. Violence can never be an instrument in politics. We trust the leadership of Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy to manage this difficult process in full respect of the Spanish Constitution.
There is also little sign of support for Catalan independence in any other part of Spain.
Por un lado, me parece mal el tema de las cargas policiales.
I don't agree with the police charging at people, but on the other hand, when you do something illegal, you have to take responsibility of the risk. So I really don't know, because this is very complicated. I understand their position, but I also understand the government's position. So I think you have to do things right.
De la policía y del gobierno. Entonces, hay que hacer las cosas bien.
The stock markets reacted to the Catalan referendum, with the country's leading stock market IBEX 35 falling 1.35% and most Spanish companies in the red. Catalonia is a center of industry and tourism and accounts for a fifth of Spain's economy. It is a production base for major multinationals from Volkswagen to Nestle and home to Europe's fastest growing seaport. Although Catalonia already has significant control over education, healthcare and welfare, the region says it pays more in taxes than it receives from Madrid, further pushing the secessionist agenda. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me this week to talk about this is PM Narayanan, Chief Producer, South Asia Bureau, German TV. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. You know, as far as the Catalonia independence issue is concerned, it has been going on for a long time now.
Yes.
But what has prompted this sudden referendum this time around?
Actually, this has a long history. The genesis of the problem goes beyond the Second World War. It starts from 1938. And there was a 50 years of regime there. Then 1978, they got a constitution. And the unique about the constitution is this is very loose federal structure. The Catalonian has got its own culture, their own language, tradition. So the Spain constitution is very, very loose, and they have a provision that they can go for a kind of self-determination. This is embedded in the system, in the constitution itself. And that, since that provision is there, this can trigger at any time. So this had happened in 2002, 2010, and it was happening in 2014. There was a mock kind of referendum in 2014.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So that is around 80% of the people voted for independence. So it's not a kind of sudden thing. It has been there, but yes, it is triggered right now because of various other reasons.
Okay, indeed. You know, now, what do you suspect is going to happen in the near future? Because Carles Puigdemont has said that, you know, he's going to declare independence from Spain next week. But the Spanish government and the Supreme Court too have said that this is unconstitutional and it's illegal. So how do you see this playing out?
Maybe, yes, it will play out for a little more from now, in the sense that, but if you take it today's position, they have just slightly come down from both sides. The government has said sorry for the police beating and other things, and the Dumont also said that, okay, we are sort of ready for a kind of negotiation or mediation. So slightly better if you compare to last week. But it will go on because Catalonia, for example, Spain is where the Catalonia is a main hub of industry, and that contributes 20% of the GDP of the country. So they know their strength. Without Catalonia, Spain the economy will be in a very bad shape. So this they know, and this is precisely what they are using for the bargain. And they had this bad experience when Spain was undergoing the huge financial crisis in 2012. Actually, Catalonians contributed much more than other part of the Spain. So this leverage is in their hands, so that is what they are using. But how it is going to roll out in the coming days, we have to just wait and see.
We'll have to wait and watch exactly what happens on that front. But do you believe that the government of Madrid is going to dole out some sops for the region, you know, some kind of a give and take maybe? Has that happened in the past?
Maybe, yes. But of course, definitely it's not going to go out of the country. That's what my feeling is, because there is a provision inside the constitution that they can invoke the 155. So we can just, if they declare independence, so the Madrid can go there and just can take it back. So this provision is there in the constitution. So it's not so easy for Dumont to do that. But of course, this is a political posturing. He will bargain their best. And yes, it will go on.
You know, we've seen this happen elsewhere in Europe as well. And this is not something new to Europe, because there are several other regions. You know, if you look at Italy, you have Venice, and you have other regions. You have Sicily probably looking for referendum as well. So the other regions will be looking at this very closely in Europe, won't they?
Definitely. That is the main, much more than what is happening in Catalonia and Spain. This can spill over to other places. We had this very good idea of European Union. So we were also jealous of it. Those countries were fighting in Second World War or come together. But that grand idea of European Union has cracks now. So for example, Brexit started with Brexit, and
Yes.
then you can see this hyper-nationalist groups across Europe. In Germany, for example, this first time this Alternative for Deutschland, that's AfD, has got around 13% vote. So such groups are, they can use this nationalistic sentiments. Maybe the Catalonian like micro-nationalism or the macro-nationalism with German nationalism. This is working out in all these countries, not only in Europe, you can see it in other parts of the world also.
Yes.
Like in Kurdish, for example, there was wherever there is a referendum, people are so fed up with this
with the establishment,
and they can vote. Sometime I feel that these voting are not necessarily from the rational thinking. I mean, nobody expects that Britain will go out of the European Union. So this happened. And same in the case of Kurdish thing also.
True. All right. Thank you so much, PM Narayanan, for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, let's move on now. The latest mass shooting in the United States has once again rekindled the debate for stricter gun laws. But ironically, the share prices for US gun manufacturers rose significantly after the deadliest mass shooting last Sunday. Historical data shows that it is a common trend that shares of gun producers to rise after mass shootings due to the market fear of gun control laws being tightened. Here's more.
Investigators have revealed that Las Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock rented a hotel room in downtown Las Vegas weeks before Sunday's attack, in which 59 people were shot dead. Police also recovered nearly 50 firearms from 3 locations, nearly half of them from the hotel suite.
Paddock rented a room at the Ogden Hotel in downtown Las Vegas. This has been confirmed. Okay? Reasons that ran through Paddock's mind is unknown, but it was directly during the same time as Life is Beautiful. We have recovered evidence from that location. We don't know if it is evidence, but we have recovered items in video evidence. And I don't want to, you know what, I'm using the wrong term. Evidence is not the term. We have recovered video from there to review Mr. Paddock's actions while he was there.
While there is no evidence to indicate that the mass shooting in Las Vegas was a terrorist act, police suspect Paddock spent decades acquiring ammunition and weapons and meticulously planned the worst domestic attack in U.S. history.
We have found no evidence to this point to indicate terrorism, but this is an ongoing investigation. We're going to continue to look at all avenues. We're not closing down any doors. The best way to do an investigation, the sheriff will tell you this, I'll tell you this, is that you don't go in with assumptions. He's not going to make assumptions, as you just said. I'm not going to make assumptions. We're going in there following the facts. The facts will always lead you to your conclusion. And we hope, very much so, to be able to provide concrete information to the public.
U.S. President Donald Trump visited Las Vegas on Wednesday to meet the first responders and victims of the mass shooting in the casino city.
The mass murder that took place on Sunday night fills America's heart with grief. America is truly a nation in mourning. We pray for the recovery of the injured and those injured officers who so bravely threw themselves into danger when duty called. We stand together to help you carry your pain. You're not alone. We will never leave your side.
In the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, Paddock opened fire at 22,000 fans attending a country music concert. Sunday's mass shooting has once again triggered the debate on gun control laws in the country. Nearly 12,000 people have been killed in gun violence, with 273 mass shootings in 2017 alone. On an average, more than 90 Americans lose their lives to gun violence every day. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And it's time for a short break now. Still to come, the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. The Nobel Committee chair said it was due to the group's groundbreaking efforts to achieve a treaty prohibition on nuclear weapons. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the US has expelled 15 Cuban diplomats to match staff reductions at the US Embassy in Havana following mysterious and bizarre attacks on American personnel there. A State Department official said that the 15 Cuban diplomats will have a week to leave the US. Cuba has registered a strong protest. Here's a report. For months, starting late last year, US diplomats in Havana have been complaining of incidents that left them feeling ill. Officials and personnel have complained of sudden wave of nausea, dizziness and headaches, accompanied by strange sounds. Last week, the US pulled out more than half of its own embassy staff from Havana, and on Tuesday, the Trump administration expelled 15 Cuban diplomats. The Trump administration claims this isn't a punishment, but government officials in Havana are seeing red.
The Ministry of Foreign Relations strongly protests and denounces this unfounded and unacceptable decision, as well as the pretext used to justify it.
No, this is not a punishment. This is not a punishment. Cuba, we are not going to say, is responsible for these attacks. Let me be clear about that, okay? And I think we have. We have consistently said there is an investigation ongoing.
On the streets of Havana, Cubans and Americans reacted with bewilderment and anger.
There is no place safer for Americans to come than Cuba in the entire world, and that's been the case. There have been no incidents by the State Department and FBI's release, no incidents against anyone other than the 21 diplomats.
It is a stupid decision because it's not going to solve problems. On the contrary, this decision is going to create more problems between the two countries.
Top Cuban officials, including Cuban President Raul Castro, have denied any Cuban involvement in the incidents and allowed the FBI to investigate. But analysts say the reductions are just the latest step in the rapidly unraveling US-Cuban relations, which were restored in 2015 by former President Barack Obama. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Well, the Nobel Peace Prize for 2017 was announced this week, and the winner is an anti-nuclear weapons campaign group, ICAN. Announcing the coveted award for this year, the Nobel Committee chairperson said that the risk of nuclear weapons being used is greater than it has been for a long time, especially with nations like North Korea strengthening their nuclear arsenal. ICAN has been working for nuclear disarmament for the past 10 years.
The organization is receiving the award.
Against the backdrop of an assertive North Korea and Iran strengthening their nuclear arsenals, the nuclear disarmament group International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons won the Nobel Peace Prize for its decade-long campaign to rid the world of the nuclear threat. He said its decision comes at a time when the risk of nuclear weapons being used is greater than it has been for a long time.
The organization is receiving the award for its work to draw attention to the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of any use of nuclear weapons and for its groundbreaking efforts to achieve a treaty-based prohibition on such weapons.
Announcing the award, the Nobel Committee highlighted ICAN's tireless efforts to rid the world of nuclear weapons, especially in an era when North Korean crisis is looming large. ICAN, a coalition of over 300 NGOs, was founded in Vienna in 2007 on the fringes of an international conference on the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Based in Geneva in Switzerland, ICAN has been a key player in adopting a historic nuclear weapons ban treaty signed by 122 countries in July. However, the accord was largely symbolic as none of the 9 known world nuclear powers signed it.
We're working very hard on trying to make nuclear weapons illegal. They are not yet prohibited by a treaty, nuclear weapons. And I think that we're trying to change people's minds. People have been accepting nuclear weapons as legitimate tools for providing security for 70 years now. And we're trying to change the mindset, really, that it's not acceptable to threaten to level an entire city just to keep yourself secure.
The ICAN will receive their prize consisting of a gold medal, a diploma and a check for 9 million Swedish kronor equivalent to $1.1 million at a ceremony in Oslo on the 10th of December, the death anniversary of Alfred Nobel. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a quick roundup of some other international news in Globe Watch.
Saudi Arabia's King Salman, on the first official trip to Russia, met with President Vladimir Putin to discuss energy contracts. King Salman led a delegation to Moscow that agreed joint investment deals with several $1 billion, providing much-needed investment for Russian economy, battered by low oil prices and Western sanctions. On the political front, there was no sign of any substantial breakthrough on the issues that divide Moscow and Riyadh. Disputing as erroneous reports, US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson clarified that he never considered resigning. The clarification came after the NBC News reported that Vice President Mike Pence and other top officials intervened to persuade him not to resign during the summer as tension rose between him and Donald Trump. US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson met with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Khwaja Muhammad Asif. The meet aims to rebuild frayed bilateral ties. Tillerson showed concern about the future of the government in Pakistan and said US wants to ensure long stability in the country. As US sought to allay Pakistan's concern over Trump's new South Asian policy, both leaders also exchanged views on bilateral and regional issues of mutual interest. Iraqi forces have driven Islamic State terrorists from the northern city of Hawija, 3 years after they seized control of nearly a third of the country. Iraq's Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi declared Hawija as liberated and called victory not just for Iraq, but for the whole world. With the capture of Hawija, the only area that remains under the control of Islamic State is stretched alongside the border with Syria. Beavis Sado, who worked at the broadcaster's headquarters in Tokyo, logged 159 hours of overtime and took only 2 days off in the months leading up to her death from heart failure. Authorities officially attributed Miwasado's death to karoshi, the Japanese word for a death due to overwork. The Japanese government is now planning to cap monthly overtime at 100 hours and introduce penalties for companies who allow employees to exceed the limit.
Well, let's now shift gears and bring you up to speed with all the sports news you might have missed in sports action. Defending champions Germany confirmed their qualification for next year's World Cup in Russia by beating Northern Ireland 3-1 in Belfast. Sebastian Rudy shot into the top corner in the second minute. Sandro Wagner rifled home from the edge of the area and Joshua Kimmich drove in late on. Josh Magennis headed Northern Ireland's goal in stoppage time. Germany progress as group winners, but Northern Ireland remain well placed to make November's playoffs. Argentina are in danger of missing a first World Cup since 1970 after being held to a goalless draw by Peru. Only the top 4 in South American qualifying are guaranteed a place at the 2018 tournament in Russia, and Argentina are 6th with 1 game left. The two-time World Cup champions must win their final qualifier in Ecuador to claim at least 5th spot, which sets up a 2-leg playoff against New Zealand. The final round of games will be held on Tuesday, 11th October. Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay are to make a joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup. The three countries' presidents announced the plan in Buenos Aires on Wednesday, although the bidding process will not begin for several more years. The 2030 World Cup will mark the centenary of the tournament, which first was held in Uruguay in 1930. A joint bid from the US, Mexico and Canada is the favourite to win hosting rights for the 2026 tournament. The 2018 World Cup will be held in Russia, while Qatar is to host the 2022 event. Brazilian police detained the head of the country's Olympic Committee in Rio de Janeiro. Carlos Nuzman has been investigated as part of a cash for votes probe after the bid for the 2016 Rio Olympics was won. The arrest is part of the corruption investigation known as Operation Unfair Play. Nuzman has previously denied all wrongdoing. Leonardo Greiner, the committee's Director General, was also arrested according to Brazilian media. The inquiry is being conducted in conjunction with French and US police. Justin Thomas was named PGA Tour Player of the Year for 2016-17 season on Wednesday after winning 5 times, a major championship and the FedEx Cup. 24-year-old Thomas beat out the likes of Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson and Hideki Matsuyama after winning the PGA Championship, adding a victory at the Dell Technologies Championship during the FedEx Cup playoffs and then taking the overall FedEx Cup title at the Tour Championship in Atlanta. He also participated in his first professional cup team last week at the President's Cup, where the US defeated an international team 19-11. And finally, lighting and flying sky lanterns on mid-autumn festival nights is a Chinese tradition tracing back to well over 1,700 years. These lanterns are expected to carry good wishes and important messages to beloved ones in faraway places. On Tuesday night, 800 sky lanterns were lit and flown from New Taipei, all with blessing words and phrases. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from Taiwan. Until next time, this is Frank Pereira signing off.